Guys, hope you are comfortable with first unit. Now we discuss the second unit. This unit will introduce you to the practical aspect of C programming language, which includes defining the basic structure of C program and how to extract a C program. This unit also covers some basic concepts of C program. Before we go into details of C programming language, first of all we should know what is a language and what is a computer language. A language is nothing but a media which is used to communicate. Guys, as we know, two persons to exchange their information, they need to communicate with one another. So they require a language. It can be either English, Hindi or any other language. The same way, a person that is a user who want to communicate with a computer needs a language. That is nothing but a computer language. This is why, because as we know, computer is a machine which cannot do anything by phone. Whatever it has to perform, the user has to instruct the computer. The instructions are given as a set. That is nothing but a program call. To write these instructions, we require a language which is nothing but a computer language. But the computer can understand only zeros and ones. That is a binary language. As a user, writing a set of instructions in zeros and ones is very difficult. So, for user convenience, the programming languages are evolved. A programming language, which is nothing but a computer language, is just like an English language. The statements in that language are same as that of the English words. Now let us start learning C language by exploring the history of it. C is a general purpose high level language that was originally developed by Dennis M. Ritchie to develop the Unix operating system at Bell Labs. C was originally first implemented on the DEC PDP-11 computer in 1972. It is used for a wide range of applications, from operating systems like Windows and iOS to software that is used for creating 3D movies. C programming is highly efficient. That is the main reason why it is very popular despite being more than 40 years old. In 1978, Brian Kenigan and Dennis Ritchie produced the first publicly available description of C. The Unix operating system, the C compiler, and essentially all Unix application programs have been written in C. C has now become a widely used professional language for various reasons. C was invented to write an operating system called Unix. C is a successor of B language, which was introduced around the early 1970s. C language was formalized in 1988 by the American National Standard Institute. The Unix OS was totally written in C. Today, C is the most widely used and popular system programming language. Now let us see the features of C language. As we know, C is a general purpose programming language. It is reliable, simple, and easy to use. C is powerful because of its rich set of built-in functions and operators. C is well suited for structured programming language because of its good control structure and modular structure. C is well suited for system programming because it is a middle-level programming language because it has both the features of assembly language and high-level language. C programs are very fast due to its variety of data types. C is highly portable. That is, programs written for one computer can run on any other computer machine. The first standard C was published by American National Standard Institute in 1989. The unit deals with ANSI C. As we know, The programming language is also same as the language what we use for communication. When we learn a new language, we start learning with the alphabets that are present in the language. In the same way, the computer language is also need to be learned by learning the characters that are used in that particular language. That is nothing but the character set. So let us see the character set in C language. Every language will have its own character set. The character set denotes any alphabet, digit or special symbol used to represent information in that language. The C includes 4 categories of characters. They are letters, digits, special characters and white spaces.
Now let us see what are the tokens present in C. In a passage of text, individual words and punctuation marks are called tokens. Similarly, in a C program, the smallest individual units are known as C tokens. C has 6 types of tokens. They are keywords, identifiers, constants, strings, special symbols, and operators. The C programs are written using these tokens and the syntax of the language. The syntax is nothing but the rules that need to be followed while writing a program. The first one is the keywords. A keyword is nothing but the words which are already defined in the language. All these words has fixed meaning and the meaning cannot be changed. This serves as the building blocks for any programming language. Some examples of keywords in C language are double, auto, int, char, struct, break, etc. So now let us define the identifier. Identifier is a user-defined name that refers to the names of variables, constants, functions and arrays. These can also be termed as user-defined words. As I said in the beginning, similar to a normal language, in programming language also we'll have words. After we learn the characters, we need to learn these words. So these words are 2 types actually. One is the keywords and the other word is the identifiers that are nothing but the user-defined words. The next one is the constant. A constant is a fixed value that cannot be altered during the execution of a program. In C, there are 5 different types of constants. They are integer constants, real constants, character constants, backslash character constants, and logical constants. Once we know what is a constant, the next important thing we need to know in a language is nothing but a variable. A variable is nothing but a data name that may be used to store a data value and which can be changed during the execution of a program. As we know, constant is a fixed value. The variable is unlike to the constant. The value can be changed during the execution of the program. Rules for constructing a variable name. The name should not exceed 8 characters. It can be a combination of alphabets and digits. The first character must be an alphabet. No special characters are allowed other than an underscore. Both lowercase and uppercase characters are allowed, but it is case sensitive, which means the lowercase letter is different than an uppercase letter. So the another important concept in any programming language is data types. A data type is nothing but the type of the data that is used in a program. A data type defines a set of values and the operations that can be performed on them. Every data item that is used in a C program has a data type associated with this. The C language has a rich set of data types. There are basically 4 classes of data types in C. One is primary data type, derived data type, user defined data types, empty data type, etc. Let us deal with primary data types. In primary data type, there are different data types that are present, that is integer data type, float data type, and character data type. Integer data type. The whole numbers are known as integers. In C, the integer data can be stored in 3 ways. They are short int, and long int. In both signed and unsigned forms, unsigned is used if the sign has no significance, so that to increase the range. Why? Because the C compiler, once we define a variable as an integer, it is going to allocate some predefined memory for that particular variable. That is nothing but the limit of the value what you can store in for that particular variable. So the next one is the floating point data. The floating point type numbers are stored in 4 bytes with 6 digits of precision. To increase the range of float data, the double can be used to define a number. A double data type numbers uses 8 bytes giving a precision of 14 digits. These are known as double precision numbers. Next, coming to the character type. A single character can be defined a character type data. Characters are usually stored in 8 bits of internal storage. The qualifier signed or unsigned may be explicitly applied to char. There are list of data types that are present in C language. So let us just go through them. That is signed char, unsigned char, signed int or unsigned int, signed short int, signed long int, unsigned int, unsigned short int, unsigned long int, float, double, and long double. All these are the data types under the primary data types. Once you know the type of the data when you are using in an application, to store that data in a computer through a program, we are going to use a variable. So the variable need to be declared. That means we need to tell the compiler first what is the data type the variable has. That means what type of data the variable can hold. In the simplest way, every variable must be declared before using it. So let us see how to declare the variables. In C program, the statement which is used to declare a variable is nothing but a variable declaration statement. The syntax for using this declaration is, first we need to specify the data type, and then we can give the variable name. Either it can be a single or a list of variables. When you have more number of variables has to be declared with the same data type, the variable names can be separated by using a comma. Another important note is, in a C program, each and every statement has to be terminated with a semicolon. These are the basic things that are present in a C program. Now, let us see what are the operators that are present in C. An operator is nothing but which is a symbol used to perform some operations. In C language, there are different types of operators. Basically, these are categorized as 7 different types. That is, arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, increment and decrement operators, assignment operators, bitwise operators, and special operators. In arithmetic operators, the basic operators which are used for performing the basic arithmetic operations will come under this category. They are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulo, which is nothing but the remainder after integer division. The second category is relational operators. The operators which are used to compare the variables are known as the relational operators. They are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. Logical operators. Under logical operators we have 3. One is logical and, logical or, and not. Normally these operators are used to combine two expressions. The next category is increment and decrement operators. Increment operator is used as to increase the value of a variable by 1. There are 2 types of increment operators. They are pre-increment and post-increment operators. Pre and post-increment operators does not differ in the case of just incrementation, but they differ in the case when we are using the value in any operation at the time of incrementation itself. That means while incrementing, if you are using the value in any expression, then the difference arises. Similarly, we have decrement operator. The decrement operator is used to decrease the value of a variable by 1. It is also having 2 forms, pre-decrement and post-decrement operations. The increment operator, the symbol used for that is plus plus, and for the decrement operator minus minus. Next we'll move on to the assignment operators. Assignment operator is nothing but to assign a value in an expression which is on the right hand side to the variable which is on the left hand side. But in C language we have, apart from equal to, we have so many other, that is plus equal to, minus equal to, asterisk equal to, slash equal to, and then percentage equal to. All this will come under the assignment operators. Next, bitwise operators. The operators which work at bit level are known as bitwise operators. Under special operators, we'll get 4 operators. One is conditional operator, pointer operator, asterisk, that is address operator, that is ampersand, and size of operator. To write a C program, first of all we should know the structure of the C program and then how to execute it. So before going to deal with the statements that are present in C, we'll learn what is the structure of C program and then we'll move on to the statements. Any C program comes with different sections. It may contain one or more sections. The sections that can present in a C program are documentation section, link section, definition section, global declaration section, main function section, which contains internally declaration part and execution part, and finally subprogram section. Let us now see in detail about each section. Documentation section. This section consists of comment lines which include the name of the programmer, the author and other details like time and date of writing a program. This section normally helps anyone to get an overview of the program. Link section. This section consists of the header files of the functions that are used in the program. It provides instructions to the compiler to link a function from the system library. Definition section. Any symbolic constants that are used in the program need to be declared here. Global declaration section. The variables that can be used anywhere in the program are called as global variables and these can be declared in this section. The next, main function section. It is a mandatory section. That means each and every C program must have one main section. This section contains two parts, that is declaration and execution part. The declaration part declares all the variables that are used in execution part, and the execution part contains the statements that are required for performing the operations. Each statement in the declaration and execution part must end with a semicolon. The statements present in the main function section must be included within the braces. Subprogram section. The subprogram section contains all the user-defined functions that are used to perform a specific task. Then these user-defined functions are called in the main function. Once a program is ready, we need to execute the program. So one should know how to execute a C program. As we already know, the computer can understand only zeros and ones, which is called machine language. But the program what we are writing is a high-level language, just English-like language, which cannot be understood by the computer. So you require a translator which can translate a program in the high-level language to the machine-readable language, that is binary language. This is done by a software called compiler. So to run a C program, we must have a C compiler. So you can install compiler in your system. Normally, for a beginner, Turbo C is an easy compiler which is a GUI. You can easily write a program, store the program, execute the program. So after installing the Turbo C compiler, you can run that by using the file tc.exe. Once you run that particular file, you will be
given with a window, you can write a program in that, and you will be having the options in the menu bar to create a new file, save the file, and run the file and all. There are some shortcut keys also available for running the program. So that is, instead of using the menu bar, you can use Alt plus F9 or Control plus F9 for compiling and running the program. After completing your required process, you can quit the Turbo C by using quit option or Alt X. Once you know about the tokens, we move on to statements. A statement is a command given to the computer that instructs the computer to take a specific action such as display to the screen or collect input, etc. Whatever may be the type of variable or constant, but to have output or to give input, you need to work with some standard functions. As C is a collection of functions, let us first know what is a function. A function is a self-contained block of code that performs a specific task. In C, there are two types of functions, that is standard functions and user-defined functions. We'll discuss about the user-defined functions at the end of this unit. Let us now explore the input-output functions. In C, there are two types of input-output functions. They are unformatted I/O functions and formatted I/O functions. First, let us see for unformatted I/O functions. Unformatted input-output is the simplest and most efficient form of input-output. It is usually the most compact way to store the data. Unformatted input-output is the least portable form of input-output. That means you cannot copy the programs written in one system easily to any other system. That is the why we have the formatted functions. So now let us see some examples for unformatted functions. We have character I/O functions like getChar, getCh, putChar, putCh, and string I/O functions getS and putS. So let us see formatted I/O functions. Formatted input-output is very portable. It is the simplest process to move a formatted data file to various computers, even the computers running on different operating systems. Formatted files are human readable and can be typed to the terminal screen or edited with a text editor. In formatted I/O, we have printf and scanf. Scanf is used to input and printf is used to display the output. To work with these functions, you need to have idea of the formatting codes which supports the concerned data. These codes comes with a combination of two characters. One is the character representing the data type and the other one is the percentage symbol. Let me tell you about some formatting codes which you normally use. %C, it represents a single character. %D for a decimal integer. %E for a floating point value which is represented in exponent notation. %F, a floating point value. And %O, an octal integer. %S, a string. And %U is an unsigned decimal integer. And lastly, %X is a hexadecimal integer. So once you know how to read and write the data, now let us move on to the other category of statements which are nothing but the control statements.
Till now we have seen the statements that are used to execute sequentially in a normal manner. But there are situations where the order of execution need to be changed based on the certain conditions. In such situations, it is required to use the statements which can alter the flow of execution of the program. This involves a kind of decision making to see whether a particular condition has occurred or not, and then change the order of execution of statements that need it. The programs that include sequential instructions are used when there is a need to execute the instructions in a fixed order. The decision control instructions are used when there is a need to change the flow of control based on some conditions. But there may be situations where it is required to execute a block of statements repeatedly. To handle such situations, C language provides different loopings. First, let us see the decision making and branching statements. In the situations like where the order of execution of statements has to be changed based on a certain condition, we use the decision making statements. Some of them are the if statement, switch statement, conditional operator statement, and finally go to statement. Let us see the if statement. So it is a decision making statement and is used to control the flow of execution of statements based on a specific condition. The if statement has different forms. They are simple if else, nested if, and else if ladder. Except the simple if, in either of the forms, the condition is tested first. If it is true, it performs one set of statements, and if it is false, it performs another set of statements. But in simple if, only true part is present. If the condition is false, nothing has to be done. It takes the statement outside the true block. So the next statement is the switch statement. The program will be complicated when multiple conditions are involved and number of alternatives are increased. If construct reduces the readability. So for multi-way decision, C provides the switch statement. The switch statement tests the value of a given variable against a list of case values, and when a match is found, a block of statement associated with the case is executed. This is about the switch statement. Next, coming to the conditional statement, an operator is used which is known as a conditional operator or a ternary operator. The conditional expression can be used as a shorthand form for simple if statement. It is done by the operator, that is a ternary operator. This is used to check a simple condition, and it returns one value if condition is true and returns another value if the condition is false. Finally, you have a statement go to in branching. This is an unconditional branching statement. Whenever this statement is encountered, the control is transferred to the statement directly without testing any condition. This is about the decision making and branching statements. Now let us move on to the looping statements. That is, when there is a need of repeating a set of statements more than once, looping statement should be used. This repetition is either a specific number of times or a particular condition is being satisfied. There are three types of looping statements in C. They are one, for statement, while statement, and do while statement. First, let us see the while statement. This form is used to create a loop, and this is the simplest form of all the loop structures. This is an entry control loop. Here, first the condition is evaluated, and if it is true, then the body of the loop is executed.
After the execution of the body of the loop, condition is once again evaluated, and if it is true, the body is executed once again. This process continues until the test condition finally becomes false. The control passes to the statement following the loop. The second one is the do statement. In the case of while statement, the body of the loop will not be executed even once if the condition is false in the beginning. But in some cases, the body need to be executed at least once. In such situations, an exit control loop is used. In this, first the body is executed and at the end the condition is tested. If it is true, the loop continues to execute, and if the condition is false, the loop terminates and the control goes to the statement following the loop. So the last looping construct is the first statement. This is also an entry control loop. So this allows us to specify three things about a loop, but it is in a single line. They are setting a loop counter, which is an initial value to start the loop, and testing the loop counter to determine whether it has reached the maximum number of repetitions or not, and then to increase the value of the loop counter each time the program segment within the loop has been executed will have one more condition. Normally, the for loop is used when the number of repetitions are known in advance. So this is all about the control structures. So next, we'll see some more data types. We already dealt with primary data types in the beginning of this session. We have some more data types which come under derived data types. These are also called as complex data types. They are arrays, structures, strings, and pointers. First, let us see what is an array. An array is a group of similar type of data items stored in consecutive memory locations that share a common name. That means nothing but a group of homogeneous data items stored under a single name is called an array. Here, all the elements of the array must be of the same type. The array may belong to any of the data types, but the array size must be a constant value. Always, the contiguous memory locations are used to store the array elements in the memory. Some examples of arrays are list of employees in an organization, list of products and their cost sold by a store, and the list of customers and their telephone numbers. Like when you have a list of values need to be represented, then we can go for an array. In an array, there are different types. Basically, there are three types of arrays. They are one-dimensional array, two-dimensional array, and multi-dimensional array. A list of items that can be given one variable name using one subscript is called a single subscripted variable or one-dimensional array. Like the list of numbers, list of employees, list of students, etc. A two-dimensional array is one which is represented by using two subscripts and can be used to store a table of values. Like if you want to store the marks of a student, that is along with the register number. So then you can go for two-dimensional array. But there may be situations where you need to store more than two values. That comes for three or more dimensions. So the third category is three-dimensional array or multi-dimensional array. This is about the arrays. And coming to strings. A string is nothing but an array of characters. That is, a group of characters defined between double quotation marks is a string. A C string is just an array of characters with one-dimensional convention. That a null character, which is represented as \0, is stored after the last real character in the array to mark the end of the string. But similar to the other data types, the normal operations like assignment and addition and so on cannot work on strings. So, to perform any operations on strings, C provides some string handling functions. They are string cat, string length, string copy, etc. In derived data types, apart from these two, we have one more important type, that is a structure. A structure is a heterogeneous data item, collection of say heterogeneous data items. That means when you have dissimilar data items has to be stored under a single name, will go for structures. That is, the structure has many fields and each field may be different data types like integer, float, character and so on. Normally, a structure is used to store different type of data items, that is heterogeneous data type, whereas the array is for homogeneous data types. Arrays allow to define type of variables that can hold several data items of the same kind. Similarly, structure is another user-defined data type available in C that allows to combine data items of different types. That is, say for example, if you want to store the details of students like a student number, student name, group and marks in the subjects, we can use the structures. This is the main use of structures. You can implement the arrays and structures when you are doing your applications. Another important derived data type is pointer. Pointer is also a variable which stores the address of another variable. That means till now the variable stores a value, whereas the pointer stores the address of another variable. The pointers are used for dynamic memory allocation. This is why, because dynamic memory allocation provides a facility to use the memory efficiently. So, it becomes necessary to learn pointers to become a perfect C programmer. So, now let us see what is a pointer. As you know, every variable is a memory location and every memory location has its address defined which can be accessed using the operator, address operator, that is ampersand, which denotes the address of that particular variable in the memory. So a pointer is a variable whose value is the address of another variable, that is direct address of the memory location. Like any variable or constant, you must declare a pointer before using it to store any variable address. So let us see what is the need of using these pointers. So it provides the function which can modify their calling arguments, and it supports the dynamic allocation. It improves the efficiency of certain routines. A pointer contains a memory address. If one variable contains the address of another variable, then the first variable is said to point to the second. Sometimes the pointer is only technique to represent and to access the complex data structures in an easy way. So it is designed to learn the complex data types also apart from the primary data types. Now let us focus on the last topic of this unit, functions. Guys, recollect the definition of a function and types of functions. Now we discuss about the user-defined functions. Writing functions avoid rewriting the same code again. The declared function can be called whenever required. Using functions, it becomes easier to write programs and keep track of what they are doing. If the operation of a program can be divided into separate activities and each activity is placed in different function, then each code could be written and checked more or less independently. Separating the code into modular functions also make the program easier to design and understand. First, let me explain the need of using the functions. Any C program contains at least one function, and if the program contains only one function, then it must be a main function. The number of defined functions can be any number depending on the programmer's choice and logic. Each function in a program is called in the sequence specified by the function call in main. After each function has done its job, control returns to main. When main runs out of a function calls, the program ends. All C functions have state of perfect equality, except that program execution begins with main. Further, full liberty is there that one function can call another. Let us see the user-defined functions in detail. A user-defined function mainly contains three parts. They are function definition, which is an independent program module that is specially written to implement the requirements of the function. The second one is the function call. It is used to invoke at a required place in the program. The last one is the function declaration. The declaration of the function is in the calling program. So there are some important points about the functions. They are, a function gets called when the function name is followed by a semicolon. Similarly, it is defined when function name is followed by a pair of braces in which one or more parameters can be present through which we can pass the values. So there are different categories of functions. The important one is the recursive function. A recursive function is nothing but it is a process by which a function repeatedly until some specified condition has been satisfied calls itself. That is, the process is used for repetitive computations in which each action is stated in terms of previous result. That is nothing but a recursive function is one that calls itself. We can give some examples for that. That is, these are useful when evaluating certain type of mathematical functions. Next, coming to the storing of data, the variables are stored in different places. That is, based on the scope and longevity of the variables, C variables are classified as 4 storage classes. The scope and lifetime of a variable in C depends on these storage classes. They are automatic variables, external variables, static variables, and register variables. Actually, the scope of variables determines over what parts of the program a variable is actually available for use. Longevity refers to the period during which a variable retains a given value during the execution of a program. So longevity has a direct effect on the utility of a given variable. So now let us see each variable. Automatic variables are those variables declared inside the function. The default is auto. No need to specify or write the storage class here. The status variables may be internal or external type, but the variables which exists and retain its value even after the control is transferred to the calling function are nothing but the static variables. The external variables are global variables and are available to all the functions in the file. And the register variables are those which are stored in the CPU registers. Whenever a function requires the variables has to be declared by using the storage classes, these 4 storage classes need to be used. Now let us discuss the usage of pointers with the functions. The pointers are very much used in a function declaration. Sometimes only with a parameter, a complex function can easily be represented and accessed. The usage of the pointers in a function definition may be classified into 2 groups such as call by value and call by reference. The first one is the call by value. The process of passing the values of actual arguments to the formal arguments is known as call by value. In call by value, the values are passed to the function and the changes that are made in the function will not be reflected in main unless the values are returned. Call by reference. The process of calling a function using pointers, that is, pointers as function arguments to pass the address of variables is known as call by reference. In call by reference, the address of the variables are passed instead of the values and the changes that are made in the function are automatically reflected in the main. These are the topics what we need to go through in this unit. So next, coming to the exam point of view, from this unit you will have a compulsory question in your lab exam. After listening to this audio session, you will feel comfortable in making use of your resources, that is course material, for executing the example programs which helps you to take the exam effectively.